This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
Hey, I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason Glick, what's going on?
Oh, not much, John. How are things on your end?
Oh, it's winter, There's winter things, whatever that means. So, what do you have on tap for us tonight?
Okay, well, I have on tap tonight is like a series that I was kind of worried about talking about because like it's Sound Volume came out way at the very end of last year, and I thought about it's like maybe I should wait and do the best of 2019 like until after I've read this. But then I thought, okay, maybe I can just go ahead and do it because like I was the one title I wanted to get before we did that podcast was X-Men. But then but as far as this one goes, well, for better or for worse, I made the right call. And that series I'm talking about is Happiness by Shuzo Oshimi. Now, before I get started, I do want to mention that yes, Shuzo Oshimi is actually a guy, which I should have realized before doing this, because as I was looking back on my reviews of this series, I noticed that I kept referring to him as a woman, and then later as a man, because that's when I found out that he's actually a guy, not a girl. So apologies, I should have done my job better there. But Oshimi is a creator who who made a strong impact on me through one of his series, The Flowers of Evil, the story of a guy, like an ordinary Japanese schoolboy who was living in a small town, and then his life was turned upside down after he decided to steal the gym clothes of a girl that he really liked, and then but it turns out that his action was witnessed by the odd angsty girl in the class, and when she saw this, she decided to make him confront his his weird desires, and it led to all sorts of weird and strange drama as the series went on. It's a series that didn't make the most positive impression on me as in its first volume, but as it went on, it slowly dug out more interesting thematic ground right up until the end of the series, where it made a good statement for how its main character had grown and delivered a positively brilliant final chapter about that got me to see the series in a whole new light. So yeah, when Oshimi's next series was being translated through Kodansha, I of course I was going to be there from the very beginning, and well, it turns out that Oshimi, at least through the series that he's had translated into English in print, at least he's got a theme that he likes to hit upon, because Flowers of Evil is about ordinary Japanese schoolboy who gets drawn into weird personal circumstances by a strange girl, and Happiness is also about that, and so is his other series that's being translated right now, Inside Mari. But where the Flowers of Evil, where the circumstances were decidedly pedestrian and grounded in real life circumstances. Happiness, well, these circumstances are of the supernatural variety, because our ostensible protagonist for this series, Makoto Okazaki, well, he's just your average Japanese schoolboy, high school kid who's just going through life, just talking about things with his ordinary friend, and just dealing with stuff hey, wonder if any girls like me. It's if I got to study, if I want to get into a good good college. It's and what am I going to masturbate about tonight? That kind of thing. So, but his life takes a turn for the weird when he realizes that he's got to return a video one night, and as he's going out, well, he gets attacked by a vampire. Yeah, it's this girl it's like just descends upon him like in the middle of the night, out of nowhere, sucks his blood, and then just asks him like, "Do you want to be like me, or do you want to die?" And Makoto, well, just reacting in like the standard like the way that like most of us would. It's like, no, I don't want to die. It's like, well, that she smiles and leaves him alone. And so when he wakes up in the hospital, it's like he's glad to be alive. But then when parents like open up the blinds, like he's freaking out because hey, like the light, it's like lights like awful to him, and that's because Makoto has become a vampire now. So he basically has to deal with like the pot like the all the problems and pluses of being a vampire, because now he's really thirsty for something that he can't quite articulate, but at the same time though he's also got superhuman strength and a ability to fly as well, things which things which like which come in handy when the people who have been bullying him ask him, hey, it's like, why don't you go and get us our lunch bread, Makoto? And this is like Yuki, the popular boy in his class. So when Makoto basically like says, no, I'm not gonna do that, and he punches him right in the face, it breaks Yuki's nose, and that basically like dissuades him from bullying Makoto. It's like after that, but it also kind of like sends Yuki into a funk, and it's basically that's him being victimized by the other it's like older kids who were bullying him as well. So so basically Makoto winds up having to save Yuki at one point from these guys. It's like, and the series just kind of goes on from there. Just basically shows you like, hey, what happens when this like ordinary kid gets vampire powers? Huh? It's interesting, huh? Well, that's not what the series is about, because while while a good portion of the series does focus on how Makoto reacts to being like this vampire, it's like he doesn't actually like do a whole lot with it. He just kind of like wants to hold on to his established humanity, just being like an ordinary kid, an ordinary son to this family, even the circumstances don't quite allow it. And as far as I'm concerned, like that's kind of like the weakest part of this series, because it's I mean, on one hand, it's like it's understandable that if we were in I'm at Makoto's situation, we kind of want to hold on, like just kind of pretend like, hey, it's like, yeah, maybe we need to like suck blood every once in a while, but hey, we can just still go on living normally. But that's kind of that's all that kind of happens with Makoto. I mean, he's just trying to hold on to it, and yeah, there are some complications to that, such as when Yuki winds up being turned into a vampire, which is also when like another vampire shows up and just tries to like like point out to like Yuki, hey, this is how we can live as well. It's like, hey, fuck like living as normal humans. Like we can just eat whoever we want. And it's like the problem is like that Makoto's 10 years of vampire is just kind of like just really in this series just kind of spent us holding on to established human conventions, and just kind of just predictably embracing how we would hope hope to hold on to our humanity as a vampire, and it's just kind of predictable for the most part, and that's kind of disappointing, because I mean, on one hand, like, yes, he is the ostensible protagonist of the series, but there's a more interesting protagonist who shows up like in the second volume, and that would be Yukiko Gosho. She is not quite an outsider. She's just kind of like the quiet girl. It's like in the it's like in Makoto's high school, and when Makoto's like is at one point freaking out because he wants to drink something, but he just can't do it because it's like he wants to be normal. Well, she just kind of like comforts him and provides him with like a sense of normalcy for the most part. It's like, and and even then, like when it's like when Yuki is trying to like treat Makoto as like his new best bud, and Makoto just wants to bring like bring in Yukiko for these like everyday things. Like she's trying to be like a normal girl as everyone else, but she's just kind of like like socially like awkward and quiet. And even though she kind of has fun, but like this kind of stuff is not really for her. But she's also got her own problems because she's like dealing with the fact that like her brother was killed, not was killed, died through like through circumstances of illness a couple of years ago, and she's just been living with that as well. And Makoto kind of reminds her of this younger brother, and she kind of like she's taking care of him as a way that she can like finally like earn some peace of mind through this. But when Makoto's like vampiric urges and problems start to like fully separate him from like normal society, well, she's kind of at a loss of what to do until she meets this guy Sakurane, who who's a who's just like this weirdo who tells her that like that vampires are real. It's like, and they killed my sister as well. It's like I want to help you out with your situation too. And well, thing is, like Sakurane ultimately turns out to be the big bad of the series, because even though it's like he talks about how like vampires are responsible for the death of his daughter, of his sister. It's like, well, the thing is, like his relationship with his sister is more of a serial killer variety. In fact, like the backstory we get later on in the series basically shows that he's got more in common with Dahmer than your average citizen, and essentially that it's like that preoccupation with his, like when he realizes that, hey, it's like their vampires are real. It's like, and you know what, I can be one of them, like that, because they are God. It's like, well, it's like that kind of leads to some awful stuff to get the volume's midpoint as well. So, but as the series goes on, it's like it becomes clear that like the real protagonist of the series is Gosho, and that the real aim of this series is kind of about just how do you deal with trauma once it enters your life, because just from one hand, like Makoto's trauma is just becoming like vampire, but Yukiko, well, hers is kind of a bit more ambiguous in the sense that she's had like her younger brother died, and that's something she's been dealing with, but it's also kind of like but when she tries to find some way to deal with that through like Makoto, it's like it just only opens up like further weirder trauma as well. And that's what Oshimi grasps on like as the series goes on, because at one point there's a time jump between volumes 4 and 5. It's like when we find out that 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 Yuko is now like working as an office lady, and like she's trying to like put the traumatic like events of her of her high school years like behind her, and it's like and like the I think that Oshimi does a good job of of selling that for the most part, just showing us hey, that Yukiko, like she's like here's someone who has like gone through some awful stuff, and she's just trying to make a go of it, and as things go on, like that we find out that hey, like it's not easy. I mean, we found out that she gets some reminders of what happens to her, what happens to her when she's reminded about the trauma, when she finds out, sees an article about Sakurane, and it also comes flooding back, and then the good guy at work, Sudo, tries to help her out of this. It's like it's a good story. It's like about trying to find the like how to find your way like through trauma. I think Gosho like tries to confront it head on as the series goes on, to the point where like we get like it's like some thriller aspects and some really kind of like gratuitous violence. It's like as well because like as I mean like I'm looking at the reviews I wrote of this series. So I've written about just about every volume of the series, and it's like and the series like has definitely has its great moments, but it does kind of like hit a kind of a slow point as it's building up to the climax, especially when Gosho tries to head to the cult that Sakurane has now made himself like the chief devout of. These last couple volumes probably could have been condensed a bit better, but it's like, but in the end, though, it's like, I guess it's like it does. I think like the biggest problem with the final volumes is that like the penultimate volume kind of has to work in order to make Makoto like protagonist again because Oshimi's like attempts to like shift the focus to Yukiko and her attempts to like deal with like the trauma like in her life. It's like both like her brother and like as was also exemplified with Makoto's disappearance. I think that was really successful. But when you're trying to like bring Makoto back after successfully writing him out over the past couple volumes, then yeah, it's like it's kind of a it's like it's it's kind of hard work, and it's not, and you kind of feels like you're trying to force a plot point rather than let it happen naturally. Especially when you consider the fact that there's this anti-vampire organization like in Japan, but the only information we get about it is that they were really like strong enough to take Makoto and Nora and the other like vampire out of the equation. But that kind of feels more plot pointish. Just the fact that hey, it's like there's this like anti-vampire organization in Japan and they are able to do this. Okay, is there anything else that we want to say about them? Nope, not really, and that's kind of annoying, really, because if you're gonna like say, hey, it's like, I mean, it's obviously there's gonna be some kind of like, organization that's gonna like want to like try and like study vampires, for their own like what kind of like scientific um uh, like information can they bring to this, but really like this kind of organization as it is in Happiness is completely faceless, without personality. It just feels like it was just brought into the series to it's like as a way to facilitate certain specific plot points. So there you go. But like to the next to last volume basically works overtime to try and bring Makoto back to being a proper co-protagonist in this series, and leaves off with him, as I mentioned in my review, just saying like, "No, Makoto, you're doing it wrong." Well, as for the final volume, well, turns out Makoto wasn't doing it quite as wrong as I thought, and to the extent that the final volume works as well as it does, the focus is kind of on Yukiko getting the kind of the closure that she needed in order to move on with her life, and I think that works. So on one hand, like that was nice, and also the final chapter, it kind of feels like Oshimi was kind of going for the kind of like same feeling we got with the final chapter in the Flowers of Evil, where it's kind of like, hey, this is like the chapter like explains a lot of things and causes you to see things in a new light. Well, it explains things. Does it cause me to see things in a new light? No, not really. I mean, it's like it's a solid enough ending for the most part, but in the end, it's like it kind of feels like Happiness is more of is a series that it is almost like the less of the sum of its parts. I mean, it's like it has like some great moments of tension. It's like moments of drama where you're kind of wondering where things are going from here, but it's also kind of like because you don't know where the story is going. Like when you like rereading things, it's like I kind of like realize that hey, it's like I knew where this is going, and oh, so that's how. So it didn't really have that kind of like feeling that everything was planned out in order to lead from this point from one point to the next. I will say that the art from Oshimi is a dramatic step up from the Flowers of Evil, just from his extensive use of cross hatching. It's like and the overall sketchiness of the work. It feels like he was just trying to like deliver more it's like more interesting and and dramatic layouts and like designs as well. So that I mean that was good, but overall it's like I don't think it's as good as the Flowers of Evil. It is still it's like interesting in and of itself, but I think it's kind of the kind of thing where it's like you're kind of more invested in things. It's like when you don't know where it's going. It's like when you're just kind of like evaluating things on a moment to moment basis. So like rereading things, I did not get the feeling that that everything led up to something grander or better than it was. As it is though, it's like I think it's perfectly fine. Um, so so overall, it's like, is it worth it? Uh, I'd say yes, but I think it. I think you kind of have to be won over by Oshimi's previous work in The Flowers of Evil to well, I guess like I think The Flowers of Evil is a better um like statement for Oshimi's qualities as a writer compared to this one. Happiness is still it's still entertaining on its own terms, but it's not quite but it's not like everything that I was hoping for. And ultimately, it's like while I enjoyed it, it's like I don't have any regrets about leaving it off my best of 2019 list. So there you go. John, um,
Hmm.
any thoughts on your end about this?
Well, so you're saying if you like uh, Flowers of Evil, this folds into this a little bit, or no?
It's kind of like if you're won over by that series, then yeah, this is a decent enough follow up. It doesn't suggest that Oshimi is it's like is that this is going to be like it's not Oshimi's masterwork. If I'm saying, I mean, like Flowers of Evil is kind of like the best statement like towards that creator's quality. It's kind of like if you like that one, you'll probably like this one, just maybe not quite as much.
All right. What are you going to talk about next time?
Okay, well, it's like on one hand, I was really thinking about making next time about a Star Wars series, but then I realized that, well, it's like it's like as far as like stuff that I've got to talk about, it's like there's something that came out that I probably should talk about like beforehand because there's a lot of tie-ins to it. I'm talking about Marvel's latest quasi event, Absolute Carnage. So I'm probably gonna be talking about that next time, but then after that it'll be all about Dr. Afra.
All right, and we'll catch you next time on Comic Picks by the Glick.
All right, laters.
Bye.